Hi everyone, I'm GREYMOND. Today we're answering questions about OCD recovery. The first question is, with ERP, I feel better in most themes now, but the most severe is the academic OCD. I have to read and reread a sentence or a page. What if thoughts, what if I fail, what if I read it wrong? Ultimately, I'm stuck on a page, can't read and can't do the exam properly, what to do. And it's that rereading. I see it a lot, happening in different situations. I have a lot of clients who are in school and they're struggling with it. People in important jobs as well are struggling with it. So this is a very, very common thing, but it's the more you react to it, the worse this is going to get. So you have to be very focused on, I read it once, that is it, I'm not rereading it again. And the thoughts feel very real all the time. OCD, that's kind of the nature of OCD, that the thoughts feel very real. You have to refuse paying attention to that. Let it be, allow it to be in your mind, but don't engage it. So again, what we were talking about, in terms of, you're going straight down the corridor, things are happening on either side, but you're not paying attention, you're not engaging it. It can't get you if you're not engaging it. But you have to be very focused. Every time you are at school or you are reading something at home or at school, wherever it triggers you, before you're entering the situation that is triggering, use it as an exposure, and before entering, prepare yourself that, yes, I might have thoughts right now. When I do, I will react correctly. When you prepare yourself, there is much less chance that you will react incorrectly, meaning you won't react with a lot of fear. But when these thoughts do come in, just really being focused on your reaction. Again, to go back to how OCD works, that the more you power the thought up, the more your mind thinks it's dangerous and the more thoughts it's going to bring to you. That part of the mind doesn't understand what the thoughts are. So it's kind of like saying, I'm bouncing a red ball against the wall, and the ball that I bounce to the wall is the same ball that comes back at me. So that means the wall knows something. No, the wall has no idea what you're bouncing against it. It just understands that, this is the thought that you want. It's kind of like a weird analogy, but this is the thought that you want. This is the thought that is scary. It means your mind needs to protect you, because if it's scary, it's dangerous. It's not wired for OCD. It doesn't understand OCD. It only understands if you're reacting to something, it means it's important. If it's important, and if you're reacting not just in any way, you're reacting with fear. So if you're reacting with fear, it means it's dangerous, and it needs to send you this thought again in order to try to protect you. It sends the thought again, then you react more, and on it goes. And that's how people get stuck in OCD. So you have to choose to refuse to do that. You can't allow that to happen anymore. Next question is about making a mistake, confessing something over and over again, finding new details. So, and with this situation, the person actually did make a mistake in the past, but it was a very, very long time ago. And now they've fallen into analyzing and trying to confess more and those kinds of things. And it's the more you do this, the worse this will seem, the more vivid it will seem. It was a long time ago. You solved it. You have to choose to refuse to analyze it further. You solved it, now you move on. Even though it has to do with a real event, the amount of energy you're putting into it right now, the amount of thought is way beyond what an average person would do. This is completely OCD. So you have to step over the anxiety, and the anxiety is not going to go anywhere, the second you step over it. But the more you show your mind that this thought is not valid, the more this is going to start to go away. Now, be careful, because once it starts to go away, a lot of the times that your mind will try to replace it with another thought, with either within the similar parameters or maybe something different. But it's, if you're feeling like, okay, well, I'm not worried about that one anymore, now a new thing came in, it's still part of OCD. Believe me, I've been helping people for 9 years pretty much now, somewhere between 8 and 9 years, and it always goes that way. So it's very common. If that happens to you, again, okay, I've expected this new thought to come in, now it came in, I'm not reacting. But first you have to get over this thought. And the way to get over this thought is absolutely don't do any confessing, because it's just going to bring you down the rabbit hole of doing more and more confessing as you go. So you're not doing that. You're letting it be. Yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Yes, it's going to feel like you're doing the wrong thing. All this stuff, a big part of it is feeling guilty, right? And guilt is a very, very common type of OCD. So feeling guilty is okay, but reacting it's not. You know, you have to view guilt as a part of OCD. It doesn't mean anything. Feeling like you're a bad person, all this stuff, doesn't mean anything. You're choosing to push through. Now, the person was asking about contamination of OCD and, you know, normal behaviors, like such as, you know, dirtying certain things and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it's with contamination OCD, it can attach to anything, you know, any little thing. So if anybody else would feel like this is nothing, then you have to choose to go with that and say, it's nothing, I'm choosing not to deal with it. And then do things on purpose that, you know, not like something way over the top, but just little things on purpose to show your mind that you're not afraid, you know, because the more you follow this, the worse this kind of stuff gets. And, you know, I had a book on recovery from contamination OCD. You know, I have clients on, you know, who have this type of theme. It's a very, 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 very common theme, you know. So this is nothing to kind of feel weird about or anything like that, but it's going to continue to get worse if you don't start really working on it. So any little situation, any normal behavior, what other people would consider just regular average behavior, you know, nothing is really clean in our world, perfectly clean. You know, things happen, you know, dirt happens, you know, like little contamination happens here and there. It doesn't matter. You have to choose to push through. Next question is, after doing something for decades, all of a sudden I have this thought that it is very unsanitary and disgusting and that I should do something about it, which I have not done, as I know that it will just lead to doing one more thing. I recognize this is an OCD thought and I'm trying to push through it. Good. I did seek a little bit reassurance, which I regret doing. I realized that if I listen to this fear, it will only get worse. Exactly. You know, and this is kind of continuation, same as the previous question, right? Is, you know, with contamination, there's a lot of little habits that happen because of it. So it's, you know, not falling into it, not avoiding anything because you're scared of something. So not choosing not to do any of that, even though right now you don't feel comfortable. Next question is, hi Ali, could you please do a video about health-related OCD? I will do a separate video because I'm doing video on all the themes, you know, as time permits. But yeah, I will do a separate video, but I'll answer the question in this video, specifically getting things checked out or taken care of. But then the questions start. Is it really okay? Does my doctor know what they're talking about? It's an endless cycle of worries over health concerns, both real and not necessarily real. With this type of OCD, it's hard because you obviously have to take care of yourself and get things taken care of, but I'm constantly questioning if I have done enough, should I get a second opinion, and so on. And again, that would be reassurance. You know, and the more reassurance you do, the worse this is going to get. So you have to choose to refuse. You know, you've already checked, that's enough. If you want to get a second opinion, you know, second opinion is second opinion. That's pretty common. A lot of people get second opinion. But anything beyond that, that's clearly now OCD. You know, so no more of that. You know, and you know, most likely you probably don't even need, you know, second opinion, but that's a common thing that people do. So that's okay. But anything beyond that, third, fourth, fifth opinions, that's clearly OCD. You don't need to do that. So, and it's again, you know, the more reassurance you do, the further, you know, down a rabbit hole it will lead. Lately, my themes have been harm related. I think that's because I'm a new mom. Congratulations on being a new mom. Can anxiety, OCD thoughts cause a sort of fuzziness in your brain at the time they occur? Yeah, and also because your hormones are probably still messed up, you know, after giving birth, and you know, if you're not sleeping well, that can actually relate to that as well. I talked to a lot of people who are new parents or people who are pregnant. You know, it's a very, very common thing for OCD to get worse during this period because there's a lot more happening in terms of level of stress. I feel like my brain becomes muddled when I'm getting a bad bout of anxiety with OCD thoughts. Then later I can't recall what happened exactly, which I know I shouldn't be doing anyway. Yeah, don't try to piece things together. You won't remember every single second of every single day. It's not going to happen. The reason why your brain didn't hold on to this information is because that information was not important. So Choose to step over it. Don't analyze. Don't allow yourself to get into it. Your OCD is an extremely, extremely common OCD. I talk to people all the time with these same thoughts and fears and all of that. Don't allow yourself to get sucked into the feelings, the emotions of OCD. Step over it, push past it. Don't do any kind of avoidance. Don't do any kind of reassurance. Do things as you normally do. You will see it will start to lift. It's just because there's a lot of new situations, and that is what's scaring you. So, try to ignore just what, like you say, this is very distressing, but I try to ignore the thought and the guilt and move on. Exactly. It's very common. Ignore the thought, push through. You will see that it will lift. Just don't feed the fear. Don't feed the OCD. Next question is, why does it seem that OCD thoughts always become more intense and feel more real when I'm having other feelings like anger? So it makes the person feel that they would be more likely to act on these thoughts due to the emotional state. And again, it doesn't really matter what OCD tells you. It can tell you anything it wants to tell you. So you're walking down the center of the corridor, it goes blah, blah, blah. What if you do something because you're angry? What if you do something because of this? What if you do something because of that? You don't have to listen to it. You have a choice whether you're going to listen to it or not. The more you listen to it, the worse these thoughts are going to get. The less you listen to it, the better these thoughts are going to get. So choose not to do this anymore. Next question is, how do you deal with automatic response of brain towards an obsession? So with the automatic response, there's not really that much you can do. Right now, the reason why you're having an automatic response is because in the past you've trained your brain with doing reassurance and whatever it is you're doing in terms of reassurance, analyzing, avoiding, checking. But you've trained your brain over time that this situation is scary, it's relevant, it's important. Now to get over it, you have to choose to refuse, and the automatic thoughts will go away. But directly, there's not much you can do in the moment to affect the automatic thoughts. They're just gonna come in. So when you can affect what happens in the future. But right now, it's the reason why that mechanism is working is because of what you did in the past in terms of reacting. So you just have to let it play out, and like letting your brain play out the thoughts without reacting on them with fear, and eventually that it's going to play them once, play them twice, 3 times, try to bring you more different thoughts, different variations, details, and then eventually it will start to unplug from it and change to a new calmer state. So it will first try to push, and then it will start to go with what you're doing with this new rhythm. So you just kind of have to live through this first period where you're getting a lot of these thoughts. I have one theme I'm having trouble with. I'm obsessed with making sure I'm not bipolar, and it feels very complicated, like tied into everything I do. If I have too much energy, I will think I'm bipolar. If I feel happy, I will think I'm bipolar. Basically, if I don't feel the way I think I should, I will think that I'm bipolar. And again, it's not you will think, it's the thoughts are coming in into your mind. Let them come in. Don't analyze, don't react to them, don't research, don't do any Googling, don't do checking, don't ask people, just let it go. Choose to let it go, step over the anxiety. Analyze the likelihood I am bipolar and avoid anything that will mean I am bipolar in my mind. Well, that is what's driving your situation. You have to refuse to do that. I know it's difficult. You have to choose to refuse it. My OCDs, I feel like I'm not aware of all of my compulsions, or they just feel so automatic. I don't want to worry about this anymore. Do you have any advice for me? And yeah, you just have to keep going. The more you keep going, the better you're going to feel, in terms of refusing. Don't allow yourself to do these little compulsions. As soon as you catch yourself, if it happened automatically, you weren't aware of it. It happened automatically, you weren't aware of it. Nothing you can do. But if you catch yourself, oh, I'm doing this because I'm afraid, or I'm trying to figure this out, then as soon as you realize, you have to choose to stop. So you're not doing that anymore, moving through it, and you will see it will start to feel better. It always, and I know I kind of say this all the time, but it always works, You can read under my videos, it always works, but it only will work if you do the work. Otherwise, it's just, you know, we can talk about it in theory, but it's what you do in practice that matters. I have severe contamination OCD. My fear is not for me at all, but for my children, especially for my baby who I'm breastfeeding. I am so scared that they will get this rare disease. I'm getting more and more compulsions. I do a lot of avoidance and checking. Do you believe a mother with OCD can recover? Of course, anybody can recover. Yeah, I help mothers all the time. Even if her fear is for her children. I am terrified to stop the compulsions because I feel they protect my children. You have to choose to stop. You don't have to stop them all in one day, but start somewhere. I would say, you know, if you have a lot of compulsions, sometimes what I do with clients is write the list of all of the stuff that you're doing and start cutting them off one by one until you just don't have a list anymore. And, you know, if it's a situation that you're doing that nobody else would do, that's a compulsion. That goes on the list, you know. So it's not about protecting the children. This is about OCD. You know, if nobody else would do it, you don't need to do it. The worst thing is that I feel guilt if I don't do the compulsions. I feel like I'm putting my children's health at risk, even if logically I know this is absurd. Can a person with contamination recover 100%? Yeah, of course you can recover 100%, but you're only going to recover if you do the work. You know, the more you allow yourself to do this, even buying into the guilt, you know, paying attention to the guilt, taking the guilt as given is also not good, because you're confusing your brain further by saying that, yeah, my guilt is valid, it's real, all of that, you know, and that just drives the situation further. So you can't, no negative reaction towards the situation. It's just OCD. It doesn't matter. I'm pushing through it, you know. So it's, you know, but it's again, it's a very, very common situation. So, you know, just you really get it together with pushing and doing the work. You will see that as soon as you start to do that, you will start to feel better. And, you know, if you want to do the recovery program, again, my door is always open. I've dealt with this, you know, many, many times. So, you know, I have a lot of experience generally because I talk to people pretty much every day. So that's the end of the show. If you like this new format, please let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you'd like to do the recovery program, the information is on youhaveocd.com. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next show.